Omega achieved the impossible. What was perfect, they made it better. Let me ask you something. If you could choose only one watch as the most important watch in the history of humanity, which one would you choose? I would definitely choose the Omega Speedmaster. For its history, for everything it represents. It's a watch that has remained unchanged for at least 60 years. But if that historical watch was already perfect, Omega improved it with this version. This is the dark side of the moon, the watch that celebrates the Apollo 8 mission, where the astronauts orbited around the moon and discovered what is known as the dark side. This watch is the witness of Omega being one of the most incredible manufacturers in the world. Omega is famous for launching a lot of special editions of the Speedmaster, and just as the past versions, they could have made just a detail on the dial. They could have grabbed a regular Speedmaster and just add something, a little detail, something on the subdials, anything, just to make it a special edition. But in this case, Omega went above and beyond and created what, in my opinion, is the best version of this watch in history. Obviously, the case had to be black, and it was created with ceramic. And the use of materials, in my opinion, is brutal. They could have done something with a black PVD, but you know, those watches in the long run get scratched and look ugly. But ceramic is a very special material. It is extremely light and it's very hard, which means it doesn't scratch. So this watch will look new for 60, 80, 100 years, basically forever. But as hard as it is also fragile to impacts. So any small nick could damage the watch and the repair cost will come up to a few $1,000s, and of course you will get a headache for like 3 months. But yeah, ceramic is a very special material, but above all, it is very difficult to machine and work with. And judging by how well this watch is finished, it just gives us an idea of the great manufacturing that Omega has. The most spectacular part of this watch is undoubtedly the dial, which shows that Omega is willing to do things differently. One could think that as the Speedmaster being their best-selling watch, they would take things very seriously. But in this case, they decided to, you know what? Let's decorate the dial with the lunar texture. Let's make it look like the moon. That detail drives me crazy about this watch. There's even some skeletonized parts on the dial. But the craziest thing is that if you zoom in to the text of Omega, and especially the Speedmaster, it looks like it could have been you that wrote it on the surface of the moon. You can see the smallest detail of dirt and lunar dust, and it looks like you're the one that drew it on the sand. The texture is literally out of this world. And those details really show that this is the best Speedmaster. Now, if that were not enough, when you turn the watch around, you have an old friend, the Omega 1861 caliber. But again, it is different. Omega could have left the things the same. They could have just put the classic 1861 movement, and they could have just decorated the front part of the watch. But that was not enough for them. They also decorated the classic caliber with the lunar texture. And I really hope to do a good job transmitting the image of this watch, because in real life it is insane. It's funny because 2 or 3 years ago I was walking in a mall and found an Omega boutique. And I went in to see, and this watch was on display. I was so amazed at having tried it on that I decided to sell my entire watch collection to see if I could buy that watch. Because at that time it was kind of expensive. It was almost around $12,000. And I knew that that watch would be mine one day. Sadly, I couldn't sell my collection fast enough. And some expenses came up. And I wasn't able to buy it. But I don't know if you've ever felt this, but you see something that you want and you know it will be yours. You don't know when, you don't know where, but you know that it will be yours. And that's what happened to me with this watch. From the moment I saw it, I knew I would have it. And I truly fell in love with this watch. It is without a doubt, in my opinion, the best Speedmaster. It has the most flavor. And even though the Speedmaster is one of the watches with the most flavor in the industry, I think that this is just ridiculous. The details are literally out of this world. It's not a normal Speedmaster. It's not just another Speedmaster. It's not just another special edition Speedmaster. We have the lume, we have the materials, we have lume crown, lume bezel, the details, the feeling. This is the Speedmaster. But what do you think?